welcome to the third tutorial on XnView, the Swiss Army knife of image editors. In the first episode, the first tutorial, I showed you how to convert from raw image format to any format that you want to convert to. XnView is the easiest application I have found, the least complicated application I have found for mass converting raw image formats to any other format that you want, really. And the converted image looks just as good as the source material. And it's a freeware application, so it doesn't cost you anything. In the second tutorial, I showed you how to do some fun things with it. So we did a couple of different actions to our images. We added a watermark to the image. We added a text overlay with a shadow relief to it. It looked really, really good. Now we're just going to batch convert 3 different image files in this episode, just so we can get it done quickly. But you can batch convert hundreds of photos at one go, one click of the button with this application, and it will just chug through all of them. And typically when I take photos, I take a lot of photos at a time, because I probably only keep about 20% of them on average and throw 80% of them away. So I will take a vast multitude of images when I'm doing a photo session to make sure that I get some very, very good photos. And the photos we're going to use in this episode are going to be some aircraft photos that I've taken for ground control RC to use as thumbnails on YouTube and Facebook. And this application just makes everything so easy. In this episode, I want to show you some different actions that I use on every single photo that I shoot. All right, two of the things that I do to every photo that I shoot is I convert it from raw image format to PNG format. PNG format is my format of choice. I adjust the pixels per inch of the image because the camera takes pretty low pixel per inch resolution with its raw image format, so I adjust that. The other thing that I do to all my images is I adjust the color, the contrast, not necessarily color, but the contrast and the lighting on the image. So in this episode, I'm going to show you all the steps that I take, that I apply to all of my images, that you will be able to set up actions for and be able to do it all in one fell swoop. So there's 3 things that I look for when I develop a process for doing something, especially on a computer. Is number 1, will it save me money? Number 2, will it save me time? And number 3, will the end product be better than what I started with? And this meets all that criteria. So it's a freeware application. It definitely saves me money. I'm able to batch process photos and complete as many actions on it as I want to, all with the click of a button. And the end product looks much better than what I started with. So in my book, that is a win-win-win situation, and those you don't come by very often. So I've got my image application XnView open. Let's go ahead and go to our tools, and we're going to go to batch convert. And I'm going to add a folder this time. I think last time we just added individual files. I'm going to add a folder. You can do either one. So let's come here and go into our PNG folder. I'm going to add that folder. And that's going to bring up the 3 images that we're going to create actions on. And I'm going to go to my actions. Now, like I stated in the last episode, you can create as many actions as you want, and it will remember those, and it will bring those up next time. And then all you have to do is enable or disable the actions that you want to run, disable the actions that you don't want to use. So there are some actions that we've already completed on these images in the last tutorial. So in the last tutorial, or in the first tutorial, we converted them from raw format to PNG. In the second tutorial, we did the fun stuff. We added watermark overlay and a text overlay with a shadow relief. Now the watermark overlay I'm going to do again, and we also adjusted the DPI, so we don't need to adjust the DPI, and we don't need to resize. But I am going to enable, I'm not going to enable the text, but I am going to enable the watermark, and it will show you the before image. And then if I enable the watermark and then we look at the after tab, now you'll see that the watermark is displayed in the lower right hand corner. Alright, so I'm going to minimize that, and I'm going to adjust the midtones on the image, the gamma, to make the image a little bit lighter. So I'm just going to grab it right here in the center. You see where you've got this 45-degree line that goes from the lower left-hand corner to the right-hand corner. You can add as many points as you want, but for the mid-range, I just want to grab it here in the center, and I want to move it up a little bit just to lighten the image a bit. Get that where I think it needs to be. Okay, so now if we look at our after image and our before image, oh, I've got to enable it. I didn't enable it. So if you look at our after image, now you see how it's lightening the image up. See, and now the before image where it looks darker. So I wanted to lighten the image up a little bit. Let me reduce that just a tad. I think that looks really good right there. And then you can also do automatic contrast and automatic levels, and I'm going to enable both of those. You can also do color balance on it, and we will use the color balance in the future. Have you ever taken a photo inside someone's home where they've got some kind of color on all the walls that adds a color tint to your photos? Well, that happens to me frequently, and I was in a home where I was taking family photos, and all the walls were kind of a light bluish gray color, and you know how light reflects off of all the walls, right? So I got the photos home and I was processing the photos, and I thought, man, every one of the photos had kind of a bluish, that light bluish gray tint to it. So the color balance will enable you to go in there and adjust that so that the color tones look more realistic. So I could bring one of those photos up in here, and I could actually reduce the blue and the color channel to remove that tint. And we'll do a tutorial on that in the future, but we'll minimize that right now. So if you wanted to, you could do all of these steps all in one go with all of your photos, because what I typically do is I take a lot of photos, but I take them one right after the other, so it's the same time of day and it's in the same environment, so that you know the lighting is going to be the same throughout that entire photo shoot. So this is where this batch processing really comes in tremendous and saves you so much time, as opposed to having to do all those adjustments on each individual photo. So if I needed to, right now with these photos, I could convert it from RAW format to PNG format. I could adjust the pixels per inch to, you know, from 72, what my camera takes, to 100, which looks much better on a digital display. I could add my graphic overlay in the lower right hand corner or wherever I wanted to place it. I can adjust the colors, the midtones, the contrast, and the levels. All those actions I can do in one fell swoop on my images. Now the process that I use on every one of the images that I process, at a very minimum, is converting it from RAW format to PNG, adjusting the pixels per inch, adjusting the midtones on the image, the lighting on the image, adjusting the contrast and the balance. And there are times where I want to also provide a graphic overlay on the image and also adjust the color balance. And like I said, how many actions is that? That's got to be like 7 or 8 actions that I can complete in one fell swoop. All right, so we've got our adjustments, our actions that we want to complete on this image. So now we'll go to our output, and we're going to select a different folder, and I'm going to bring that up, and I'm going to say I want it to go into, let me get to my correct folder here, PNG edited. Okay, so I've got that's where it's going to drop off my folders, my images. So now all I have to do is select convert. Okay, and this is just going to take just a few seconds, and it's going to process all three of those images, and it's going to act on every one of those actions. It's going to create every one of those actions that I selected on every one of those images. Okay, so we're finished. So let's go ahead and minimize this. Okay, so now if we bring up our images from our edited folder, you can see that it's adjusted the lighting, the contrast, and the levels on the image, and it has also added our watermark in the lower right hand corner. We'll take a look at all three of them so you can see that it processed all three of the photos. And like I said, it doesn't matter if you've got one photo, 2, 3 photos, or hundreds of photos. You can process all of them at the same time in one fell swoop using XnView. And it's a freeware application. There'll be links to the links in the show notes to the playlist for this series of video tutorials, as well as on GIMP and Handbrake and KDNLive and all the other applications that I provided tutorials on. So if you want to take a look at those playlists as well. And before we close out here, I wanted to bring up XnView again. I wanted to show you where I got those actions from that we added on the batch processing. I almost forgot to do that. So if we go over to actions, and you can see that I've got the DPI, I've got resize, and we've gone over those in the previous tutorials, the text, the watermark. The new ones that I added in this session are the color balance, the automatic levels, the contrast, and the curves. So if you go up here where it says add actions, and then you've got a map right here, and you can see right here is where the automatic levels came from, that action. The color balance came from the same menu. And let's see, automatic levels, automatic contrast, color balance, and curves. So all 4 of those additional actions that I added during this session all came from this map menu system. You got image, you got map, you got filter, you got miscellaneous. Well, those came from map. So if you want to add those, because those are things that I do to every single photo I process, so you might want to add those actions and use them when you need to. Like I said, you just enable them or disable them. It will process the actions or ignore them depending on whether you have them enabled or disabled. And that's automatic contrast, automatic levels, color balance, and curves is what I have loaded. All right, so that is a wrap on this episode. Stay tuned, and I'll be publishing more tutorials. I'll see you in the next episode.